Hi.
Wait, where's Vincent Peter?
Hello.
Hi.
Now at the end of season 4, we have the Fury demise of, I'm sorry, excuse me. I went to the future. At the end of season 3, the Fury demise of Chuck. You guys had such a, interesting, difficult relationship. How do you think Jimmy was responsible for that? And how do you think it will affect him in his further
Well,
development?
I disagree with Peter Gould on this, so you can ask him again, because he and I don't see eye to eye. But I really feel like, and we talked about this so much this season, because the whole season is kind of the reverberations of that incident of Chuck killing himself. And I feel like because of that scene that happened the night before, when Chuck told Jimmy that I never really cared about you one way or the other, you just never meant much to me at all, that colors the whole impact of Chuck's death. And that to Jimmy, I think he walked out of the room and he kind of compartmentalized Chuck and wrote him out of his life the night before he died. So, I think it's natural, too, for a person, if someone you know and you're close to dies, to think, what was the last thing we talked about? What was the last thing I said or they said to me? And in this case, Chuck said some really cold stuff, and he really seemed to mean it. He wasn't emotional or anything. He just seemed to be matter of fact about it. So for me, Jimmy's written Chuck out of his life, and he's not going to let Chuck's death weigh him down. That would be how I perceive it. These guys don't agree, but we got through a whole goddamn season with that dichotomy and didn't have a problem. Because I feel like everything that Jimmy does in season 4 fits with my philosophy of how he perceived Chuck and leaving Chuck behind him. And then somehow it works as well for Peter. All that plot works just as well for him, and he feels that Chuck's death is massive, and that anyway, I'll let him tell it. It's okay, you can disagree. Just like fans can disagree about what things mean or whatever. Anything else?
How you doing today, Bob?
I'm great, man. How are you? Where are you from?
I'm from New York City.
Yeah? What's your outlet?
Oh, Alternative Minds.
Alternative Minds. Is that an online blog thing?
Yes.
Cool.
Do you miss Bryan Cranston?
I do miss Bryan Cranston. Bryan was the guy who really dialed me in to the tone of these shows. The first thing I did in Breaking Bad was the commercial for Saul that Jesse watches. And it was very much like the stuff I did in comedy for my whole career on Mr. Show and many other comedy shows. It was kind of broad and fun and silly, and then I had a scene with Bryan Cranston, and Bryan was amazing. He was so heavy and serious and cold and dry and and there was just a lot of texture, and so he really got me to focus. And so working with people like Bryan and Ray, this marvelous person right here, working with people who are better than you, it really helps a lot.
That's not true.
Well,
Also, do you think we'll see Aaron Paul on the show in the future?
I do. I'm speaking as a fan. I don't see how
Peter's
we
not
don't.
here, remember.
Look, here's what I know. I know that Mike, I know that Dean,
Betsy.
Dean Schrader, Sergeant
Oh, Hank.
Hank Schrader knows Saul, right? Because when they meet in the hallway, they give each other shit, and they know each other, if you remember the first time. Okay, so Hank knows Saul. And I think because of what Jesse says to Waltz, you need a criminal. You don't need a criminal lawyer, you need a criminal lawyer. That line. He obviously Jesse saw Saul's commercial on TV. We saw that in Breaking Bad. But I don't think that's enough for that Jesse recommended they go to Saul. It's just a commercial. I think he knew Saul and he knew Saul's reputation. So I think those two characters, I think, should meet.
Yeah, there's more to that too. Max, who plays Crazy, I don't know if you guys remember all the way at the beginning of Breaking Bad. He had an incredible performance with the whole bike lock and everything. So Jesse works for Max, and Max and Nacho are almost family, almost related. And Nacho's first mentioned in Breaking Bad by Bob's character, so it's clear that Nacho and Saul had this thing in Breaking Bad.
So
you say it wasn't me, did Lalo sent you, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio.
Yeah.
So Bob and Nacho know each other for sure, and 100% Nacho and Crazy know each other very well through family. And Jesse Pinkman works for Crazy Eight. And there's actually, I don't know if this is true or not, but there could be a reference to Jesse Pinkman in Better Call Saul, if you pay attention. I don't know if it's Jesse Pinkman, but Crazy Eight mentions a new dealer who's brand new to his squad, who's sort of not really good at it. And people think that that's Jesse's first sort of introduction. I don't know if that's true or not.
Huh.
What a cool show I'm on.
And then there's a guy that sells chicken.
Brandon from MTR Network. My question is for Michael and Juan Paulo. Will a relationship develop between you two in season 4? Because I kind of want to see how the meticulousness of how Gus runs his business versus how Nacho is trying to clearly save his family from having the run-in. And if the plan is for you to kind of work together, or maybe get in the business of cahoots to...
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Great ideas that you're putting out there. Certainly worlds will collide in season 4 because these two characters have different agendas that each of them have not known about of each other. The audience may see it coming, but more than likely will not. But when those agendas are revealed, then obviously action has to be taken. It is something I think will more than likely be inevitable, but I will neither confirm nor.
Yeah. It really feels, I think to me, Nacho's storyline really kind of breaks through and comes into focus this season. And the arc of the series of the character to me is very much a redemption story. It's a story of a good son who's fallen from the good graces of his father and has to learn about, self-sacrifice in order to redeem himself and hopefully save his father and maybe himself. And what's really interesting is I find whenever we had scenes with Giancarlo, the very first time I had a scene with Giancarlo, I was a huge fan of his. And I remember it being at the Los Pollos and looking into his eyes, and the first thought that crossed my mind was, this guy's got people in his basement. And I don't know where that came from, but it gave me chills. And to me, I really compare it in this situation, sort of man versus corporate. I mean, I feel Nacho's got this romantic idea of being able to walk out of hell, and then he faces this corporation that is operating on a level almost with no beating heart, just mental. It's all pure mental genius.
The other element to it that I believe could be expanded on and explored as well is the father relationship.
Oh, yeah.
The relationship between Nacho and his father, and the disappointment his father has in him, and the relationship to Gus Fring, who might be able to teach Nacho something he doesn't know, if he can be reined in, which is the big question. Can Nacho be reined in to learn something new and become a different cog in the wheel for the cartel? I'm not sure that's possible because Nacho has such a very strong personality and has ideas of his own that are also quite...
saying I love coaching?
But but it's something that, you know, this show is so very special because all of the characters are so entwined with each other, one step removed. I mean, I can't wait for the moment where we really have more screen time with Jimmy. Because Jimmy is moving into a space that becomes darker and darker, and so seamlessly done and performed by Bob, where you can still have this feeling that there's an old Jimmy McGill there, but we're seeing him in all of his presence and all of his consciousness move more towards Saul because he's more comfortable there. So that puts him in direct conflict with Gus, and eventually there's going to be something happening there too, I would imagine.
I have to say, I saw a scene between these two, Bray and Patrick. I went to watch a scene this season, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I think you guys are incredible this year.
Oh, thanks.
I was wondering
I'm like,
where
what's
it's going. Where's that
I
going?
can't wait for you guys to see the season. I just felt they haven't spoken yet. I'm trying to get you guys closer to the
okay.
mics.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, I'm Olivia from Blue Novelist.
Hi.
Hi. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
My question is actually for the main two characters here. Well, you two, but the main two characters who were in both shows, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. When you now are doing like time jumps, how do you sort the evolution of your character and what you're performing in that moment?
Well, that might be it. For me, Saul is a thinner character than Jimmy. He's just a front. He's not a whole person, really. Whatever. I think it's
Breaking Bad.
huh?
You looked fatter in Breaking Bad.
That's because I have a bulletproof vest on. But so it's actually yeah. So boy, spoilers, right? Because this season there's some cool shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone want me to say it.
Yeah.
But,
It's hard. It's hard.
Anyway, the point is, I did have to ask that question of myself this season, so maybe that tells you something. Who is Saul, and how do I play him now that I've played Jimmy? And he's not as dimensional as Jimmy. It's kind of easy, relatively. John Carlo?
For me, I always have to remind myself that this is Gus prior to Gus, and you know, my younger self would have a different way of exacting his mission, trying to figure out how to really have people understand that he can run this business better. He has ideas that would expand the cartel, but there also, as we're younger, there's more of a vulnerability and there are more mistakes that we make. So in my mind, it's tracking is to remember. Now look, Gus primarily is mysterious, and the less you know about him, the more you want to know, and the more you want to see him. So with the work that I do, I try to do physically and facially, and in my gut is to make him seem a little less seasoned in certain areas, and maybe that is to make him a guy who's not so in control as when you met him in Breaking Bad. So for me, it's always trying to keep that at the forefront of my brain, that he's still trying to figure it out as we go, so that there is some nuance to the performance that I bring this time around in Saul, as opposed to what you saw in Breaking Bad.
I'll just add, this season...
Oh, hey!
This season, you get to see the wrath of Gus Fring, and it is terrifying to behold.
Bob was talking some crap about you behind your back earlier.
Just what I would expect.
I was talking about how you and I got a very good question.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a very perceptive journalist who asked me about Chuck's death and how it affects Jimmy, and I talked about how I feel like there maybe was some dichotomy that played out perfectly fine this season, in that I perceived Jimmy as having kind of disowned Chuck when that conversation happened the night before Chuck's death, when Chuck said to him, "You meant nothing to me, you never meant affect me. So when Chuck dies the next day, it's already, that's where his head is at in this compartmentalization, but that it seems that, yeah, you talk about what you think. You go ahead and show me.
You know, it's such an interesting topic. I really would.
It's really about how people grieve, which is what we talked about. Ray and I talked a lot about this, and people grieve in very unique, idiosyncratic ways. And you can't call one way right and one way wrong.
I think that's exactly right. The greatest moments for me on the show are when the characters surprise me. Surprises in the writer's room, surprises on the set. And I'll say that the way Jimmy grieves his process is some of the most surprising material we've ever worked on. It's very complex. And I think the other thing that's fascinating about this season, man, I want to make sure it doesn't sound too heavy, because there is a lot. Bob makes me laugh every day in the editing room. This is a very funny season. This is a very dramatic season. But it's also a season which has, at least as part of it, the effect that someone who's dead still has on the living. And not in terms of being like a literal ghost, but when you lose someone physically, you haven't lost them from your mind. You haven't lost them from your heart. The effects of people who are gone lingers. I take some of my own personal experience. My father died literally before I was born. And the impact of his life and his work on me is enormous, and I never met him. So it's one of the things that we were all thinking about and talking about in the writer's room about this effect on Jimmy. And I'll say that Jimmy McGill is, boy, he is a fun character. He is somebody with a zest for life. He's somebody who likes to move. He's someone who has passion. But there is a lot more to him than meets the eye. And that's one of the things, and if we agreed on everything instantly, then we'd be doing something wrong.
Well, we do agree on that Chuck's life and death resonates through the rest of this character's life. Like, that is the kind of impact that he never really, it's never gone from his universe, his interior universe. That we agree completely on, is that it's not like he can acclimate to that and it doesn't ever affect him again. This is the rest of his life. That's one of the things, one of the few things in his life that will never not matter. So. And this season, because she hasn't said much, I must tell you, it's a lot of Jimmy and Kim, because the next person in his world that's most important to him is Kim. And she also, Chuck was important to her too. So she has to also deal with Chuck disappearing in flames.
Yeah, which was, and we did have a lot of conversations about grieving and the process of grieving, and if you've ever been a supporter of someone who's grieving or their support system. And it's like that constant question of when do you tell someone that their behavior needs to stop or something, whatever their coping mechanisms. And we had a lot of very interesting conversations, and I think it will be fun to see viewers and fans figure out what is accessible, what is strange, what is odd. And it's all particular. It's also individual to the characters, and there's things that Jimmy is doing that you normally might say, well, that's unacceptable. But because somebody is grieving, and it starts to really open up your mind to how to be someone's support system through that, and what exactly is strange behavior, while he's also in this gradual devolution to becoming Saul. It was a very interesting jigsaw puzzle for me to figure out what is odd behavior and what is not odd behavior, and then for Kim, who is so much of a loner and going through the guilt that I think death can magnify also. What seemed like maybe questionable, what you were responsible for, is suddenly magnified and mythologized. And she's going through that while trying to be the supportive person of Jimmy, who lost Chuck. It was a lot. It was a lot. And then Hamlin has a very interesting, surprising reaction to it as well.
One thing I have to say, I was just sitting here sort of taking a scorecard. Here we are sitting with these guys and girls up here on stage, and it seems to me that without a doubt, Howard Hamlin now occupies the moral high ground in this show.
I think my dad.
Your dad's right, but he's not here. But literally, I was sitting here, I'm like, well, he's dirty, he's a cheat, she's cheated with him. So I'm like, oh, okay, so Howard's last man standing. But to Peter and Bob and Ray's point, the vacuum of Chuck, the vacuum that he leaves amongst us.
It's huge.
And that was palpable and a quirk at the end of the season last year. My last day working with Michael was indeed the final scene where I give him the check and kick him out the door, and it was shot in sequence, which is sort of a rarity in television. And so my last image of working with Michael McKean is applauding and then not looking at him as he gets shown the door. And that really didn't dawn on me, even after I saw it, and I enjoyed, I loved working with him so much, a towering talent to work beside. But the first day of work we came back to set, season 4, we are dealing with that aftermath. And the first time that I'm on set, and his absence is there, I both felt it professionally,
Yes.
and then also personally,
Yeah.
because I didn't realize how much I relied on this mighty oak with me in the scene. I always had this secret thing in my mind. When I was in a scene with him, I always felt like, well, no matter what, the scene's going to be good because Michael McKean's in it. And I didn't realize how much I thought that until the first time I was doing a scene really this year and realized, oh, he's not coming back right now to save you, Patrick.
I really echo that sentiment with Patrick, and I'm sure everybody on the cast does. I think when you do a couple of seasons together as a cast, and whenever a character gets killed off, especially someone with the status and stature of Michael McKean that we love very much, it not only affects, I think, everything in the writing, because you got that character that's gone. It affects the characters, but it affects us, the actors, as well. You feel that there is some kind of a real loss of someone we really like that's no longer around.
Yeah.
And it's always.
But also, additionally, for me, one of the most interesting things was the question of grieving someone that, in character, that you don't really like, and how, do you know what I mean? Like, but what, how do you, feeling sad about someone that was an ass, like, it was, I found it very complex and interesting that it was, she used to, Kim and Jimmy and Hamlin, histories of putting this man on a pedestal in all sorts of ways, and he fell off of them long before he died, and Kim has her own personal issues with everything else, but then the man committed suicide. Do you know? So I found it very interesting to figure out what we do with the memory of the dead and the legends we start telling ourselves.
But it's also funny.
It is funny.
Hi guys, my name's Mike.
Hi.
I'm very social. It's really awesome seeing you all here today. So I have a question kind of for everyone. So first of all, Vince, hello. My question is, were you expecting to make a spin-off while you were still filming Breaking Bad? And to the cast, whether new or returning, did you expect to come back for a spin-off? And for new cast and crew, how did you guys feel when you had the opportunity to come into this world of Better Call Saul?
you know, part of the long walks, we were in a very unusual position because, at least in my experience in show business, you're begging people to make something. Anything, and even in Breaking Bad, it had a long history that you guys can all read about, where it wasn't instantly a yes. But here we had a situation where at least there was a lot of interest from people we were working with. There's a spin-off here. And we had to do, I think, I'll speak for myself, I was scared that we would do something that would tarnish the value or the work that we did on Breaking Bad. I was very worried that the story would come out, well, you know, Gilligan by himself was great, but Gilligan and Gould. So we spent, a lot of the time we spent walking around just trying to figure out if there's a story here, if there's more, what is there to say about this character? Because if it's going to be, and frankly, I think this was Bob's concern too when we first started talking about it, is it's just going to be, you know, one thing after another, then is it worth doing? And is it going to be overshadowed by what already happened? And then as we started talking about it, we just started to know, well, who was Saul Goodman before he became Saul Goodman? And then suddenly that became really interesting. And there was this image that came, I don't remember how, of frankly, the brother. And the idea that, and what I realized as we went was that what made him human to me was that he had people he cared about. And he had something to lose. If he didn't have something to lose, he had no vulnerability. If there's no vulnerability, there's no story. There's no emotion to it, no guts. So then I got very, very excited. But I will say it all seemed long-winded way to answer the simple question. It seemed too good to be true. I mean, Breaking Bad seemed too good to be true because getting on board this thing on the ground floor and riding up to where we were Comic-Con was amazing. And then to do this a second time just seems cosmic.
Yeah. I certainly thought it was a fun joke to talk about, but I didn't take it too seriously. I really started taking it seriously around season 3 as a possibility. But we spend enough time in showbiz trying to make things happen. You don't even count your chickens after they hatch.
I was a huge fan of Breaking Bad and watched it multiple times. And then I heard they were going to do a spin-off. And first approached it just as a fan, thinking like, I can't wait for that. So I'm very excited. But then additionally, yeah, as an actor, I remember distinctly being on the Sony lot for an audition for another pilot, a different pilot, and the Breaking Bad RV was parked on the lot at the time, and I was leaving the audition, and it was good, and they were lovely people, but the storytelling was not the richness and the complexity and the refusing to spoon feed the audience and the intense character work that Vince and Peter write. And I kid you not, I was walking back to the parking structure there, and you have to pass that RV, and I thought, can you imagine being on a show like that? And I'm so fortunate that I've worked as much as I have, but that kind of deep storytelling. And I did get the call 2 days later from Sharon Bialy and Sherry Thomas to come in for it. And it's daunting. It's quite formidable to think like, oh shit, now I'm going to go in for that. But you get past it really quickly because the writing is so great, and they are asking you to create a character that didn't exist before. So I'm not there to mimic something. I'm not even there to mimic a tone or be Breaking Bad. I was there to, can you please bring us in a rough sketch portrait of this person that we think is going to kind of look a little bit like this. And so at the end of the day, it was a thrill to come up with a little 5-minute portrait of a human that I thought was interesting based on what they had, and then they couldn't have been lovelier. And my audition was with Bob, and Peter was there, and Vince was there, and Tom Schnauz, and Melissa Bernstein, and from every day forward, they've been nothing but inviting, encouraging, and supportive. It's been awesome.
I've told this before, so I'll tell it again, but I'll tell it really fast. So, I had a pin in me for a guest star on Dog with a Blog, ABC Family, and it got pulled because they wanted a name in your name. Now, I'm over 50, staring at the ceiling with a mortgage and 2 kids going, oh boy, did I pick the wrong career. So then I get a call for this thing called Better Call Saul. Confession, I hadn't seen Breaking Bad. I had 2 little kids. We watched Cliff the Big Red Dog. I can talk all about that. But the casting directors were Sherry Thomas and Sharon Bialy. Hadn't seen them in a while, and I thought, oh good, I'll go in, because they cast The Walking Dead. And if I go in there and I haven't seen them in a while, just maybe I'll get like a 2-episode arc and a zombie will eat me. Because there's no way I'm going to get this Better Call Saul thing, because I knew of Breaking Bad, they're going to get a movie star. I've been around long enough to know that. So I go into the office to see Sherry Thomas. I sit down and she goes, these guys, Vince and Peter, they really like you realistically. So I sit down, and as you can tell, I project out the back and I do this audition, and she goes, let's do it again. They really like it realistically. And I know enough after 25 years to listen to the casting director. That's about all I could figure out. So I just dropped all pretense. I thought, well, shit, there goes my zombie-eating 2-episode arc on The Walking Dead. And I do the thing. And she says thank you, and we exchange some chit-chat, and I leave. And on the drive home, I start to get a little buoyed, and I think, you know what, that was pretty good. Maybe I will get The Walking Dead. That'll be great. And then 3 weeks later, I get a call saying that they had seen my tape and they wanted to test me. And I said to my manager, I said, really? And he goes, yeah, really? And I said, well, we both shouldn't be surprised. It's all true. That's exactly true. Anyways, and so that's how it turned my life around, by being in this. And yes, I watched the show as soon as I got the job, by the way. So it was fantastic. Thanks, guys.
There's so much to say, I think. First, I want to say to Peter and Vince, thank you. I think yesterday we were all having drinks with the Breaking Bad cast, and we echoed the sentiment in front of you guys, but we ended up talking about it all night. You guys really changed the lives of so many people. So, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. My experience of it has been, I've lived around the world, but believe it or not, I've only been to America once, for one day, prior to getting this gig. And I had never seen Breaking Bad. I was going to my father's house, and they were watching the last 2 episodes of the show. And I'll never forget sort of sitting there for the last 2 episodes, thinking to myself, wow, I've never seen something this good. And the name Vince Gilligan at the beginning of the episode always popped up. And 2 weeks later, I get an audition from Canada, and I recognize the name. And I couldn't believe it. I said, oh my God, I knew instinctually this was going to be an important audition for me. I just felt it. When I was invited to come and screen test, and I did the screen test, that's where I met Peter and Vince for the first time. And I told Peter this, but I never told you, Vince. So I do the audition, we do it a few times, and I shake everybody's hand, I'm about to walk out, I've already shaken everybody's hand. And as I'm about to get to the door, I have my hand on the doorknob, and I feel this very warm hand sort of reach over and grab my shoulder. And I turn around, and it's Vince Gilligan. And I nod to him, and I walk out. And from the moment I left that audition room to 3 weeks later, the moment I landed, I kept thinking to myself, was that like I choose you? Or was it more like, better luck next time? And it was neither. I had a door around. And I got the call from I was arguing a foul. We were playing basketball, and we were in a heated argument about a foul. And my phone rang, and she told me, are you sitting down? And I said, no, make it quick. I just got fouled. And she told me I got the gig. So anyway, it's gratitude and blessings all around.
Yeah, totally. When you come into a situation in your life where you're given a gift, all you can do is be in gratitude. And for me to come back to this show, when I had great questions about, have I done all I could do with Gus? I don't want to repeat myself. How will I ever do this? And after having a conversation with Vince, who I'm like, actors were like racehorses who were at the gate, just want to run. And I love the concept of the show. I love stories about someone who you would look at as an everyman, and then be somehow, as you're looking at that, going, this everyman is going off the rails somehow. It's changing. That could be me. We all have that dark and inside of ourselves. And so when I asked just simply to speak to Vince about what will this be? How will this be? And Vince said to me, well, you know, Gus is a mystery, and certainly that mystery remains electric if we see him less than more. Just what an actor wants to hear. But I thought to myself and started to write down what would be the challenges, and why think that you've done it all? Why not think that you haven't even scratched the surface? So I started to think about ways in which I could create a more subtle version of who Gus was back in time. And is there a moment in time where we see how his brutality came to be, how his vengeance came to be? What could I do with this? And so, although tentative in the beginning, the reason to come back to such great writing, again, it's the gift that we're given as actors by, you know, two really great minds who are able to be in service and be inclusive of you as an actor, as well as their other writers. Vince and Peter, you know, just so grateful, because I realize every time I come to work, it's not work for me, it's play. And I realize how excited I get inside, whether I have nothing to say and just have to be in a scene with no words, or whether I have a lot to say, that it is this kind of excitement that really brings us together as audience and actors, as creators and writers. It creates a situation where you feel simply like I have felt, and that is, I am home.
Gee, imagine your wife comes to you and says, I want to stay in mystery, so I'd rather you see me less than more.
You know, Trevor, we're so happy you said yes, and we made an amusing error. In season 2, we had the...
Oh, right.
We thought we had the brilliant code that would take the Enigma machine to figure out, where the first letter of each episode is spelled out, brings back. And we hadn't talked to you about that. Which is embarrassing and humiliating. And of course, the fans are so much smarter than us. They caught on. That was a free By the way, so thank you for forgiving us for jumping the gun there.
Definitely.
No, I thank you.
So my question is for Peter and Vince. When working on the show, do you feel that essentially knowing the ending that the people become Saul Goodman makes it easier or poses more challenges?
I thought this was the easiest thing in the world. I thought this was the thing that became more, because I'm going back 3.5 years when I thought, we really know where this thing's going. This was like exponentially harder than Breaking Bad, and because when you had to backfill into it and you had to get all the details right, and on top of that, then it dawned on us, we really don't know the end. We know at a certain point it becomes this Breaking Bad story, but what happens after that? Saul Goodman / Jimmy McGill / Gene, the law goes on. What of that? What happens then? What would you say?
And it's like the world's most complicated crossword puzzle, mixed with trying to stay true to the characters. It's, we started the show with 62 episodes of Breaking Bad history, and many, many episodes of Saul Goodman, who spoke a lot. And he told a lot of little anecdotes about his life, some of which I think we always had was more fun if they were true. But Jesus, if we had known that every little thing that he said was gonna come back to us, we're still chewing on some of those. I'll be honest with you, but it was really tricky. But the great thing, I think the thing I learned on Breaking Bad is the trick. And oftentimes people ask, Coach, you need to plan everything in advance. Yes and no, because I think what Vince taught me on Breaking Bad, what we learned from the show, was we look really carefully at what we've already done, whether it's ahead in time or behind in time. And we ask ourselves a lot of questions. Why does this character do this? Why in the Pollos Hermanos photo, who's the other chicken brother? He asked himself a lot of questions. Why does, his name is McGill. Why did he change his name to Saul Goodman? Is that explanation he gives to Walter White the whole story? Why would anyone design an office like that? These are all, they may sound like unanswerable questions, but I will say this season, you'll learn more about some of the answers to those questions. Obviously, the chicken brothers we know about, but you learn a lot. Each season, I think the characters have started answering some of the questions we started with. The biggest one, for me anyway, was always, how does this guy, who I'm starting to really like, Jim McGill, how does he become Saul Goodman, who I'm fascinated by? What happened to him? And I think this season, last season, of course, you saw what happened with Chuck. And this season, I think you just start to understand it all. And I'll also say something that Ray brought up. Bob and Ray created these two characters in this very adult, empathetic relationship between these two. There's this connection between Jimmy and Kim that I find just tremendous, just fascinating, and also very touching. And the idea that he's going to become Saul Goodman after having this open-hearted relationship with a woman who is as wonderful as Kim Wexler kind of breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.